I'd like to welcome to the show star of the upcoming film Survive the Game, Mr. Simon Phillips. How are you today, sir?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Very good, man. I'm excited to talk to you again, man. We talked earlier this year over Philip Chapman. I love the film. I love the conversation that we had surrounding the film. So it's exciting to be able to talk to you again about it.
Well, this is your fault now. You see, the first time you didn't know that because you never spoke to me, but now you're back and you know better than to talk to me. So this one's all you, mate.
I'd like to take the viewers back a little bit. I want to know what your first job in the movie industry was.
Oh God, the first job, I was like an extra in a movie with Matthew McFadden and Michael Gambon, who Michael Gambon would later go on to play Dumbledore in Harry Potter, but years and years before that, he was in a movie called It's either called Perfect Strangers or Perfect Murder, and I've forgotten the title of the movie, but it was I think it's Perfect Strangers, and I was a cook in it with just one line in the background, sort of. But it was a very big deal to me because that was the first movie. I'd done lots of theater before that, but movie is something different.
What were some of your early inspirations in the film industry?
Do you know what? I don't remember seeing a movie thinking I would like to make this movie. I remember seeing lots of movies thinking I want to be in the movie. And I don't mean act in it. I mean, I wanted to be Luke Skywalker, sort of not the actor, sort of I wanted to actually be Luke Skywalker. So, and I remember that when I was younger, that feeling, it was something I was envious of. It's like that, Spielberg and, with the Star Wars and Indiana Jones and, these movies, they just sort of, you were in their world, sort of, and I wasn't aware of them as a movie. I was just, to me, it was very real. And even to this day, I'm still involved in movies, obviously, and I still can't watch horrors because I'm so captivated. But people go, but you make horrors all the time. I was like, I know, but actually watching a horror scares the bejesus out of me. It really does. And I'm because I have that suspension of disbelief. I love just getting involved in the movie. I believe everything that's said, and I would like to be the person that watches the movie. Like I would like everybody to be like that, sort of that involved in the movie. They're not, but I would like them to be.
I think that's one thing that I love about you saying that is I love talking to people that still love the art that is film, right? You know what I mean? I think it's important, and it comes across, in my opinion, it comes across when you see somebody that loves what they do. It doesn't matter if it's acting, if it doesn't matter if you're playing sports, it doesn't matter if you're a bank manager. Like if you love what you do, it shows off, and especially on the screen, right?
I think so. You can, they have this thing of like everybody's seen a movie where a big person maybe is in a famous person and they look bored, sort of, or they're not engaged, and you can kind of feel it. It doesn't really, something doesn't translate a little bit. So you have sometimes very good actors in, sort of mediocre movies, and you can feel that their heart isn't in it. And it's terrible, obviously, that happens. But as you say, it's like anything. If your heart's not in it, it really makes the day a lot longer.
Survive the Game is about a man's life who's on his farm is interrupted when a cop and a pair of dangerous criminals show up. What attracted you to the role to play in this film?
Bruce Willis. That was
right.
It. When I was on the phone today, I didn't know anybody in the movie at all. I've never worked with any of these guys, except the producer. I know the producer because I did a Mel Gibson movie last year with her. But she was saying, there's this part, sort of, but it, and it was called Cowboy. And I was like, Cowboy? And I was like, okay, not really okay, yeah. And I was like, is it? She goes, it's small, but it's with Bruce. And I was like, have I got dialogue and scenes with Bruce Willis? And they're like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm there. And then they made me call the Zoom the director before we got to Puerto Rico, which is where it was being filmed. And he was just chatting with me, and he said, you know what, I'm going to rewrite your role. I'm going to call you English, and you're going to be like a Vinnie Jones type gangster. And I was like, oh, that's great. Because it was going to be so much easier for me to do that and have fun with it rather than cowboy. Because I like to do a bit of improvisations and stuff like that. But that's harder when you're when you have to do an accent and stuff like that, it's harder to improvise if you don't know what's being said, sort of. So you have to remember those things. So when he said he was English, I was like, great, that's amazing. And so I really wanted to, after talking to James, I was really excited about doing the movie with him as the director, sort of. Never mind Bruce Willis. I mean, when it's Bruce Willis, look, mate, it's that same thing. When I was a boy, like maybe a bit older than when I watched Indiana Jones, but I was like any boy in the early 90s watching Die Hard. It's amazing. Actually, I didn't actually ever want to be Bruce Willis as well. I wanted to be Alan Rickman. I wanted to be the bad guy because he was British and he had way more fun. So this was just, this whole movie is just teenage Simon giving adult Simon a high five.
Yeah. What was it like, the meeting, the introduction, and then of course, being on the screen with him?
Well, we had been filming for about a week before he came, so he wasn't there the whole time, and we'd already been shooting earlier that week. So I got to know my scene buddy pretty well, Sean Kanan, who was playing, and we had a great sort of Bert and Ernie sort of married couple fighting about which country was better, England or America, and it was quite good. I quite liked it, and Sean was a wonderful scene partner. But so by the time we had that sort of down that between us before Bruce appeared, and then Bruce, there was a lot of expectation of like, hey, Bruce is coming tomorrow, Bruce lands today, whatever. So people were kind of getting excited about it, and then he turned up on set and he was cool as hell, sort of very nice, very quiet, not the big personality that you think he's gonna, I imagine that he would, when he talks, everyone would shut the hell up and everyone would listen, but he was kind of quiet, and he was he was lovely, and he was great to me because I like improvising a lot in scenes, but the director was like, hey man, he goes, I like you doing it, but you can't do it with Bruce, sort of, because you've got to keep the script the same. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. And then Bruce started improvising. And as soon as that happened, he was like, oh, you can do whatever you want. All right, yeah. Sort of. So to me, it was great. And he improvised these, these scenes are in the movie. He improvised like a couple of scenes with me. So anytime you see me talking to Bruce, it's probably been a bit improvised. And it was great fun.
Yeah, it's like he has this presence whenever he's on the screen that it kind of just, at some points it's kind of just like, that's Bruce Willis, right? You know what I mean? So it's cool to kind of have that and understand that behind the scenes, it was just as cool, because like you said, that's one thing that I really do think that I loved about watching this film was it's the perfect blend of action and comedy, right? It's always straight and narrow action, or it's like full-blown comedy with a piece of action. I think this was the perfect blend of that. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, we knew early on that I was, there's a lot of tough guys in the movie. There was a lot of gang, people being very tough, and I was like, oh, I don't, if I'm going to be this English guy that's kind of, because I'm out of like nobody else is English, sort of, so I was like, I feel like I want to be this guy that isn't really sure that he's doing the right thing, and maybe he doesn't want to do this. He wanted to go to culinary school, but it hasn't all worked out, sort of. So I was like, I'm going to be the only person that doesn't really want to be a gangster. Everyone else is like big and tough, and sort of. I was like, if you don't mind, I was like, I'll be the other guy that isn't like that. And that, James, the director, was happy with that because he knew that we needed a bit of comic relief in the movie. So he was like, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. so lucky for me, I was in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. So I know that you are also a writer and a director on the side. What have you done to kind of keep yourself creative throughout this kind of pandemic?
Oh, mate, to be honest, I've had a great pandemic. I know it's been very difficult for people, but I've been in my last, I'm not trying to brag here, but in my last 12 months, I've done a movie with John Malkovich, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, Mel Gibson. I've done 2 movies with Bruce Willis. So I've done Stealing Chaplin. I've done loads of, we've kept very busy. So, if you're an actor, you're waiting for the phone to ring a lot. And thankfully my phone has rung a lot this year, but what they did is they just flew us to places that weren't closed. So, Atlanta or Puerto Rico or, wherever the film had to happen. I went to do like a movie in Hawaii, so wherever was still open, they just had to get creative about how to do it and where to do it. And then I've been doing my own projects with my business partners at Dystopian Films, Paul Tanter and Ken Bresses, who did Stealing Chaplin with me, and we've been working on. We did another movie with Adrian Langley called Ash and Dust, which is coming out. So we've just been kept very, very busy. But then you have to do that all, whether it was a pandemic or not. You had to do that. So that was just part of being busy as an actor.
You got a couple new projects I saw on Instagram today that you got the John Malkovich movie coming out very soon. What else can you tell us about what you got coming up in the near future?
Yeah, actually, the John Malkovich movie is coming out on Friday. So I've done all this wrong. I should be advertising it in different direction. No, so the John Malkovich movie, I've only got a very small part on that, but with the great Julian Sands. I'm not allowed to. I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to say what happens there. But anyway, I've got. It's just to be in a movie with those guys is great. But I didn't have any scenes with them, so you know what I mean. Sort of. But you're still in the movie, so you're like, yeah, okay, cool. We've got Age of the Living Dead season 2 coming up, which we are hoping is November. I think is coming out. Don't have an exact date on that. So we got a whole other season of TV. So that's my. It's funny you were talking about an Amazon show earlier. Sort of. That's my other thing is my bread and butter is the TV show. So we spend a lot of time doing the TV show. I do the movies between these things. You see, sort of. So it's all a bit of a scheduling nightmare. But yeah, we have that. Ash and Dust coming up, and I've got obviously this movie coming up. I then have another movie with Bruce Willis and Chad Michael Murray behind this called The Fortress that I've also done, which is also coming out soon. I don't know when, through Lionsgate as well.
Following up on the Bruce Willis thing, you work with Bruce Willis. All right, give me a director or an actor you have not worked with yet that you want to work with.
I'd love to work with Gary Oldman. I just think he's fantastic. I don't know how or where or what, but definitely Gary Oldman.